This is Resonant 2. It's kind of a sci-fi horror fantasy book. We're going to take a look at dog whistles, themes, and propaganda. But before we do, let's take a little gander at the publisher's writes a letter in the back and listen to the keywords and let me know if you can find any read between the lines. This is by Damian Wassel, publisher of Vault Comics. No superheroes. The headlines have been heavy lately, and we are all haggard, no longer surprised by the violence, and unable to recall the last time we were disarmed by a moment of public compassion. Not to mention the little erosions and little degradations recorded daily in memory, if not the news. It's enough to make you wish for a superhero, some symbol of grandiose goodness who might inspire us to raise our heads and open our hearts. Get ready, here it comes. How might we react if some immigrant from another world diverted a doomsday asteroid, forestalled a nuclear war, or overthrew some villainous tyrant, and then asked for nothing? Not allegiance, not votes, not donations in return, or, welfare. Perhaps this would inspire our own deeds, deterring petty violence before it became normalized, fostering an environment safe from caustic anger, refusing the fear and resignation that gives way to tyranny. I wonder who you're talking about. Drumpf, am I right? Perhaps we would remember that our own powers, mundane and minuscule by comparison, are nonetheless impressive, vast in implication if not in scope. Perhaps we would even strive to do something grand. Sure, we cannot divert asteroids, but the power to create justice and civic goodness has always been singularly ours. No one needs a reminder that there are no superheroes, but maybe we are due a reminder that we never needed them. We can do the most important work ourselves. The only power required is compassion. Hashtag open your borders. As I go through this, you're probably going to think I'm nitpicking the symbolism. But bear in mind that it's not just one comic I'm talking about. This specific comic is 3 issues, is issue 2. And I read hundreds of these comics, and they all have these similar elements. See if you can pick up on the so subtle symbolism. It's really difficult. You almost need a professor to point out this subtle symbolism. The whole comic you should be signed. Now listen, if someone wrote one comic like this, you'd never notice it. But the people who read comics are reading several comics per week, several comics per month. They pick up on this stuff, and it's not subtle. It's when every time the protagonist looks like this, and the antagonist has that hair color. It's not just one comic, it's thousands of comics. They really have a hard-on against blonde hair, red hair, blue eyes, green eyes. Anyway, this is a great concept that is ruined by this kind of endless axe grinding. The SJWs talk about microaggressions. This kind of stuff is a microaggression. If you simply told the colorist to change the colors around, the 12 sociopaths on Twitter would lose their mind. It's odd that they don't complain about it when things are reversed. Okay, the image, the house, the trees, the full moon, everything looks good. The kind of muted blue colors. The only thing is the guy holding the knife, the kid holding the knife, later on you'll see he's a blonde-haired kid holding some Bowie knife or buck knife. I don't know what it is. The symbolism is not lost on us. We'll come back to it. Okay, you got this great scene on Endor. Luke Skywalker's meeting Yoda to begin his training. The blues and the greens, the pale moonlight. Everything works really, really well. He finds a dog, he helps it, frees it. The story is compelling, and I like this dystopian future, post-apocalyptic worlds. It's a very interesting setting. Obviously, I like zombies. I like the zombie stories about civilization right on the brink. Can we recover? Do we have to rebuild civilization? Are we just going to further the decay? It's all very interesting. But then you get to this stuff. These mindless drones, evil guy of a certain skin tone, leading a bunch of madmen, all of certain skin tones, in chains. They're just mindless automatons, brainwashed dummies, Jim Jones type stuff. And I know you think, dude, you're just nitpicking. If you read comics often enough, you see this stuff all the time. Trust in Ma. So when you're taking digs at people who look like this, they're just mindless followers of religion. I think you're also taking a dig at religion also. And like I said, if this was one comic book, you wouldn't notice it, but it's not. It's every single comic book. The bad guys have this hair color, and the good guys look like that. Comes up to a fort, which is a common theme in zombie books. He's welcomed, and the person who welcomes him, blonde hair, blonde beard, okay. And then his partner talks about eating the guy's dog. You can't make the bad guys the same specific group of people every single time. You got to vary it up. Your audience isn't dumb. I mean, a lot of these creators are doing this consciously because they're really racist, horrible people. But some of them are just doing it subconsciously. They just know that the only people you can portray as malicious are, the blonde hairs, the red hairs, the blue eyes, the green eyes. It's almost as if they're hypocritical. Well, plot twist, they are hypocritical. And if you read enough comics, this is the kind of stuff we're talking about. It's not just, owning the libs or fighting against SJW politics. This is deep, deep racism. This is 1935 Germany level propaganda. And it starts like this. It starts subtle. But it goes to a very dark place. Okay, so you got the bad guys in the background. He's lured in by this old grandma type lady. They drug the dog so they can eat the dog. They beat the hell out of him. You come back to the scene of these, beautiful kids, good family. Everything's fun. He gets a knock on the door, and he's naively is going to go open the door. Oh, and she's the hero, though she's missing a leg, and she manages to do things that even people with two legs can't do. And look who's at the door. Dun dun. I found your knife. The reason they use blonde hair and red hair so often in SJW, the racist SJW comic books, and sexist too, because it's men are usually portrayed as the bad guys, or men or boys, blonde and red hair, green eye, blue eyes, because they want you to know that these people are definitely Europeans. And the problem is, if you're using Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Greek people, they usually have dark hair, dark eyes, and slightly darker skin. So when the SJWs, if they were using those people, they would think, oh, what if people confuse them with Mexicans who well, we hate Europeans, we don't hate the Mexicans, and we'll get in trouble. So that's why they don't use dark hair, dark eyed. I mean, there are a lot of European people, probably most European people have brown or black hair and brown or black eyes. I mean, those are very, very common features, especially in the South. So they use these people who, like, nobody's going to defend the Germans. The racism against the Germans is just unbelievable. The Germans and the English, because they both had, tricky histories. But guess what? Every group of people had tricky histories. It's not acceptable to do this to them. For every freaking, this imagery, it's about as subtle as cancer. If you want to make the guy the bad guy once, fine, but you can't do it in every comic book. And I've read these comics, all 3 issues, and the symbolism is repeated. It's the same bad guy, same protagonist, the same antagonist. Okay, Renfremus has one of her tweets is talking about this comic, and this, it's funny, it's fun, but it's I don't know, it's all kind of like dirty and grimy and degenerate and just filthy and cruddy. It just makes you want to, like, you read these things and you want a bath. Okay, so Money Shot. Obviously, it's their reference to the adult industry, adult toys, or vegetable. I don't know what that is. So this is that looks like Laci Green. If Laci Green lost about 20 pounds. Money Shot, Love Comes in Many Colors. Okay, I guess it also comes in alien fish people, because it looks like this Cthulhu, Mrs. Cthulhu, is gangbanging these two degenerates. Then you come to his letter, and obviously it's like that. You have to analyze these comics in the totality of the circumstances, the tyranny, the violence, no public compassion. Were you here during 2008, 2016? Because that 8 years of Obama, there was a lot of intolerance caused by Obama. I guess you just kind of skipped over those 8 years. Anyway, this is Resident. That's issue 3, which is already out now. You can check this out if you want. It's a good concept, but it's just I don't know. I didn't even look at the sales numbers. I don't know what the sales numbers are, but here's the thing. Whenever you see a person on the cover who is female, check 1, brown, check 2, Muslim, probably, check 3, you know she's going to be a purse puppy, a Mary Sue. There's no way she can have faults. They just can't. They just cannot do it. These aren't the 80s. These aren't the 90s where you could write multifaceted, well-rounded characters with flaws and defects that they have to strive to overcome. If you see a black girl on the cover of a comic, it's going to be woke. It's going to be, I'm willing to say 100% of the time, literally 100% of the time, if you see a black girl, a Muslim girl, from the Middle East or something, an Asian girl, she's going to be the smartest character, the best character. She can't fail. Everything's going to come easy to her. It's going to be Devil Dinosaur, Riri Williams, and they use these characters because people are terrified to criticize, women in general, but they're terrified to criticize anyone who isn't European because they will get destroyed on Twitter. But I mean, we're criticizing these books. We're not racists. We're not sexist. We're criticizing bad writing. This is bad storytelling, and it's racist propaganda. Anyway, this is Resident number 2. Check it out if you like. Like, comment, subscribe, guys. I will see you next episode.